What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPapa, and we're going to be talking about one of my favorite sets from the Sword and Shield era today, and that is Crown frickin' Zenith. You know, a lot of us, myself included, kind of forget how pumped Crown Zenith was prior to its launch, right? Like, Crown Zenith was the end of the Sword and Shield era, and the Sword and Shield era was crazy popular, right? And then it was also the final set that was going to have yellow bordered cards. All of us out here were in a frenzy over those two things, and not to mention, it had an amazing lineup. You got Pikachu, you got Mewtwo, you got Charizards, you got these amazing gold cards, like awesome full art trainers. Crown Zenith had everything that we could have hoped for in a final Sword and Shield set, right? And here we are today, and I think Crown Zenith is hitting that point where we need to start looking at it. Now, what is it that makes me think that now is the time to start looking at some Crown and Zenith products? Well, we've been doing a ton of data dives, we've been doing a ton of research, a ton of, trend analysis over the early Sword and Shield sets, over the Sun and Moon sets, and really at month 6 or 7, it seems like that's a good time to get in on singles and sealed product if you can. Now, the reason that we say that is because we never know where the bottom's going to be. We never know when the quote-unquote best time to get in is, but 6 to 7 months has seemed like a great time to get in to give you some opportunity for some really cool rate of return on the investments that you make. Now, I included this thumbnail down below from a video that I dropped on January 1st, 2023, and I learned some things from this video. First off, I learned don't drop a video on a holiday because nobody's watching. But then I also had this crazy hypothesis, and I'm sure it's going to be debunked. I'm sure it's not true, but my theory was this, and I know nothing about commercial printing, so take this with a grain of salt, but I had this theory that since they're switching from silver borders to, from yellow borders to silver borders, excuse me, that they were going to print all of the yellow border cards that they ever want to have printed ahead of switching to silver borders, simply because to take a printing press and to switch from yellow borders to silver borders, you would have to do all that, then you would have to change the ink, and then you would have to, go through some kind of quality control process, even though here in the US the quality control sucks, so it's probably not much. But that was my theory, and again, I know nothing about commercial printing. Maybe it is as simply as changing a printing press, but that was my thought. My thought was that there was going to have warehouses and warehouses and warehouses of this stuff. I wasn't saying it was going to be short printed by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think it's going to be short printed, but I also said I didn't think it was going to be printed into the ground simply because they have this brand new MSRP product coming out, right? A product that they can charge more for. So why would they go back and reprint products that they have already committed to selling at a lower price? As a business person, as somebody in the business space, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, if I can charge more for a product now, why would I go back and spend time switching from silver to yellow printing presses, print the old product, charge less for it? Just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, I could totally be debunked. That might make no sense at all. I have no clue, but I will say this. Up until this point, we've seen Brilliant Stars restocked, right? It wasn't reprinted, it was restocked simply because it was still in stock at the Pokemon Center, so I highly doubt that they would print more cards if they already have plenty in stock. Same thing with Lost Origin, same thing with Evolving Skies Elite Trainer boxes. Like, those were all restocks. I never had any problem finding an Evolving Skies Elite Trainer box at my local Walmart, so I just simply think it was a reallocation. Now, who knows? Maybe they turn the printing presses back on. Maybe it's as easy as switching a printing press, going from silver back to yellow. I have no clue, not my area of expertise, but that was the hypothesis that I had when this video came out. So now, if you like all of this craziness, all of these data dives, all of this trend analysis, we do fun stuff like this on the channel all the time. So listen, if you like what you see, give us a thumbs up, questions or comments down below, and I will tell you this, we're building an amazing community that we would love you to be a part of. So if you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe button and come join us, bunch of Pokemon collecting maniacs. Now, with that being said, let's look at the very first products that I wanted to talk about from Crown Zenith, and you cannot start any conversation about Crown Zenith off unless you're talking about these 4 gold cards right here, right? You got the Giratina, you got the Arceus, you got the Palkia, you got the Dialga, right? Like, these are just amazing Pokemon in amazing artworks. These are just absolutely flat out gorgeous if you get to hold them in your hand. Couple things too. We know that Arceus, because we always do the grading report videos, right, where we see the actual grading data at all the big 4 grading companies, we know that Arceus is always in the top 12 in regards to grading, so we know that there's a lot of excitement around that. And Giratina has been on freaking fire as of late. Like, this was the first time ever we saw a big shakeup in the top 8 most graded Pokemon, and Giratina was right there to kick them all out. Giratina jumped Rayquaza last month. Like, it has been graded more than Rayquaza in July, which is absolutely crazy. So all I'm saying as this, there is a ton of excitement, there is a ton of love, not only for the Pokemon, but also for these cards too. Remember, we look at the top 10 cards that exchange hands the most on TCG Player, we almost always see that Giratina on there as well. So lots of excitement around these cards. Now, let's talk about the price point. Look at the graphs that are underneath each card. You don't have to worry about the individual prices. Just look at the trend lines. Look at how they've all done that pattern, right? I call it the Pokemon pop and flop, right? Before it launches, it pops up in price, and then it launches and it flops right back down. And it has been on this downward in trajectory pretty much for all 4 cards. But what you will see, with the exception of that Palkia, is you see that they've all really started to kind of smooth out and flatten out. So maybe this is that time where we feel comfortable that this is the price point that at least is approachable for us to get in. Again, you'll never know the bottom. Nobody knows the bottom. You'll never know the perfect time to get in on any of these cards, but certainly the math has supported that in the past 6 to 7 months, and when you start to see the line flatten out a little bit, it is a decent time to get in if you're looking for a rate of return on your cardboard. Now, the Palkia right there has got this little upward tail, so I don't know, maybe that thing's starting to pop up a little bit. We shall see. But outside of that, the other 3 have a very, very similar price graph movement right there, kind of the smooth little slope down, and it's really starting to flatten out. So now, we're going to talk about a couple other products that we were talking about in the Discord, and this was an awesome conversation that we were having in there, so thank you to everybody who was participating in it. But first, we'll talk about the Pokemon Center exclusive ETBs. These have been gone. Like, I mean, they came out, everybody bought them, they went out of stock, and you know, this was the first time we really started to see the Pokemon Center like limit the supply of these. I mean, you can go and buy a lot of Sword and Shield Pokemon Center exclusive ETBs out there, which I still think are great buy and holds, but you can't find anything from Crown Zenith forward. They're just not there, and as soon as they are there, they sell out almost instantly. So the fact that you can have some of these in your collection is amazing. And again, if Crown Zenith ends up being one of the very top sets in the Sword and Shield era, and you have some exclusivity in this Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer box, this could be single-handedly one of the very best investments outside of Evolving Skies in the Sword and Shield era, is this Pokemon Center exclusive ETB from Crown Zenith. I love it. I have 6 of them. I'm holding on to them for the long run, and I think they are going to be absolute awesome. The thing that we were talking most about in the Discord was the Elite Trainer boxes from Crown Zenith, and they've kind of disappeared. You know, I travel a lot for work, and whenever I travel and I'm in a different state, I always go into the local Target or Walmart or wherever I think there might be Pokemon cards, and I see what they have in stock. I haven't seen Crown Zenith Elite Trainer boxes out in the wild in months. Now, if you have, wherever you live, drop it in the comments down below. I'd love it to hear who sees it out there. But maybe if all of us drop in the comments and we have this hive mentality and we say, hey, none of us are seeing this out in the wild, then maybe there's something to that, right? Like maybe these are starting to get a little scarce. The price has been consistent. You know, it's been as high as $66 at one point. Then it came back down, but you'll see it's starting to work its way back up. Again, at $57 a box. A lot of us pre-order were able to get it in the high $30, low $40 range. So a lot of people who pre-ordered this already have a lot of value in it, right? We've already made a couple bucks if we were able to sell it tomorrow. So anyways, this is a really interesting product for us to keep an eye on. And again, I am shocked. I didn't even think about it, but I just haven't seen any of this out in the wild as of late. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about are these 2 cards, which you all know I absolutely love. This Pikachu was the only card in recent memory which almost had me break from my trends, break from my Pokemon collecting rules. Like when this one was coming out, I was almost ready to spend $50 on it because I just thought it was so freaking amazing. Now, of course, I went back, I refocused, I thought about why I do what I do and how I do it, and of course I didn't pull the trigger. But I will tell you this, ever since it has hit this flat price point right here, it's been, you know, in the $13, $14 range for the last couple months, I've been able to add 4 of them to my collection, and I absolutely love them. All of them are at PSA right now, and I love this card. Now, this card might have a crazy high PSA 10 population right now, but the hope is that the Pokemon collecting community continues to grow over time. The hope is that Crown Zenith becomes one of the best sets in the Sword and Shield era, and 5, 7, 10 years from now, there's going to be a bigger Pokemon collecting community. So that population report, you know, it's going to be important, but hopefully that the collecting population is much bigger then, and so this card is going to have a lot of value, and I think it's absolutely stunning, and people are going to want to get in on it. Then we look at this Mewtwo right here. You all know there's only 2 cards that I think in all of Crown Zenith that have the opportunity to displace Giratina in the future as the #1 card in the set, and this is one of them. We have seen through all of our data and all of our research time and time again, whatever card starts out as #1 almost never, not never, almost never ends up 2, 3, 4 years from now remaining in that number 1 spot. Most of these top cards don't go wire to wire, so we will see some flipping in the top. Normally, we will see some number 1 cards fall to number 3. We've seen number 1 cards fall as far as number 8. When we did our Sun and Moon deep dive, we saw that a lot. This Mewtwo, I think the fact that it has a sister card out of the Charizard Ultra Premium Collection box, I think that's going to add a layer of collectability to it. I think the fact he's just freaking battling with Charizard right here, like the artwork is amazing, and it has finally started to flatten out. I've been talking about this in my videos for months and months, and I've been waiting for the right time to get in. I waited for the right time on the Pikachu. Now I think it's the time for me to pull the trigger on this Mewtwo. It is absolutely stunning, and I can't wait to put it side to side with its sister card in PSA 10 holders. So these two cards I'm really, really excited about right now. This is another product we were talking about in the Discord, and again, I think back to all these trips that I go on and all these stores that I visit and all these different states and all the product that I look at. These are two that I haven't seen a ton of as of late, and people in the Discord were saying the same thing, that they just haven't seen it in the wild. Now, the prices are still relatively low. You can still get it on eBay for a very good discount, but these premium figure collections in the long run tend to do really well. Now, you've got to give it some time to flush out of the market. You got to give it some time to mature, but the fact is, if they were to reprint this product, you know, I'm not saying reprint the packs. I'm sure they have tons and tons of Crown Zenith packs they could use, but if they wanted to reprint this product, you have to have the pins, you have to have the figure, like there's a very specific plastic insert that goes in these. So I just think the fact of restocking these or reprinting these further down the road is very hard, and that's why I always think that these are a great buy and hold collector, right? In my last, target list, I told you for this month, one of the things I'm looking at is the Celebrations Premium Figure Collection with the giant Pikachu, and it's simply because I think it's getting to the end of the rope on that, and I think a year from now, we will be saying the same things about these. And you get a ton of Crown Zenith packs in here. Like, this is just such a cool product. Now, who knows how long it's going to take for the price to appreciate? Who knows if they're just holding back a lot of these because they're going to flood the market with them later? But I will say it was really interesting to me in the Discord to hear so many people say that they haven't seen these in the wild anytime as of late. Now, these two cards right here, I think, are absolute fire. We have seen what awesome full art trainers can do in this space. We have seen the Sun and Moon sets just be inundated with full art trainers in the top 10 list. We have so many full art trainers, which are number 1 in the Sun and Moon era, that are going for $100, $200, $300 plus dollars. It is absolutely crazy. And this Irida right here is absolutely awesome. I love how she's got her friends with her. They're sitting there about to go to battle. She's ready to rock and roll. But I will tell you right here, this Elisa Sparkle is hands down one of my favorite cards, not just in this set, not just in the Sword and Shield era, but to be honest with you, this is one of my favorite cards of all time. And I know that's really weird to say about an ultra modern card, but I just think it's so cool how she's sitting there, she's chilling. I didn't even notice this until I took a deeper look, but guess what? She's got a Charizard toy, a Pikachu toy in the back. She's sitting there chilling with her headphones on, just banging out to some awesome music. I think it's a really relatable card. Obviously, I think it's a cute card. I think this card from a great set has the opportunity to do really, really well in the long run. And, this really is one of my favorite cards. I got a couple copies right now. I got a couple that are out to PSA. I want each of my girls to have one of these because I just think it's a really cool card that they can relate to. So anyways, I am super bullish on both of these cards, and you will see that these cards, unlike the other ones that we talked about earlier in this video, they went down, but they've been fighting their way back up. This upward trend has started far earlier than any of the other ones, and the earlier ones that we looked at, the Pikachu, the Mewtwo, the Giratina, the Arceus, like all of them are flattening out. These ones are already fighting their way back up. We know the power of full art trainers. We know the community loves them, and so I think these two have the opportunity to be absolute epic long-term buy and holds, and I guarantee you that Elisa Sparkle right there is going to be one of the best in the set. Now, this is what I take away from this. Listen, the Pokemon Center Elite Trainer boxes, they're holding strong at crazy prices, right? Now, I don't think they can't not restock it, in my mind. There's no way on God's green earth that they can't restock it at some point. They have to. Like, there's been too few restocks. They have to have more of these out there. So when it happens, I guarantee you that I will be sitting there waiting to scoop it up with open arms. The full art trainers, like we just talked about, they are bucking the trend that we have seen for all the other ones, and that is not uncommon. We have seen so many cards eclipse what card started off as number 1, ends up at number 2, number 3, number 4. Don't sleep on that Mewtwo. Don't sleep on that Elisa Sparkle. Listen, 5 of those 6 big chase cards that we've looked at, so when we talked about Mewtwo, when we talked about Pikachu, when we talked about those 4 gold cards, like those were the big chase cards when the set came out. Guess what? They have all started to flatten out a little bit. All we saw was that Palkia, which is starting just a little bit of an upturn, but to see those cards have that commonality, right? They came up, then they came down, and now they're starting to flatten out. Makes me feel like we are in a good spot to maybe make a move on the Crown Zenith singles if that's something that's interested in you. Now, the final thing that I will say as well is We have the holidays coming up. They're coming like a freight train. The Pokemon Company very well could be holding back some reserves of these products, which is why we're not seeing them in stores. And they could flood the markets with Black Friday deals. They could pump Walmart and Target and Best Buy and every other big box store that you can think of full of Crown Zenith Elite Trainer boxes. I don't know. You don't know. I always try and make the best decision I have that is backed up by data at that time. And I can tell you what, some of these opportunities look really good to me at this time, and it certainly is backed up by data. And don't forget, this was one of the most popular sets at the end of Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield was one of the most popular sets of all time. Don't sleep on the fact that these are the last ones with yellow borders. 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, whatever, people are going to hold some value to that. So don't sleep on Crown Zenith. I know you haven't been. You're a bunch of Pokemon collecting geniuses out there, so you know that Crown Zenith is awesome. And listen, if you made it to the end of this video and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you doing? Join this awesome group of collectors that we have here. Hit that subscribe button. Questions or comments, drop them down below. And if you like what you saw, give us a thumbs up. You guys have an epic weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.